and round pegs into square holes, so to speak. But when we were talking about Black Bottom, we have one of our starter adventures, the advanced starter, the starter set for people that I already know all about Draw Steel. I know what a power roll is. I know how potency works. I just want to get started. So you don't need all the onboarding. That's Fall of Black Bottom. And we talked about a future Black Bottom box set. That's not on the schedule right now. So that's not going to happen in the next 18 months. But, we hope Draw Steel is going to last. And we hope we're going to last a lot longer than 18 months. So I still think we're going to go to Black Bottom. Big adventure, cool box set. We talked about hey, while we're sitting here in this meeting talking about Black Bottom and what it's about and what its vibe is and what kind of content we would expect there, let's brainstorm new unique classes that you would expect to be able to play. Not things we've already talked about that might be appropriate as, no. We've already talked about those. Let's talk about new things. And we had a lot of ideas, but the one that really stuck out that made me think that we could do it, or at least it sounded like a good enough idea that it was worth investing some development time in. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. We've already done this. We had the idea of, you don't play a goblin, you play a tribe of goblins. You play a collective of goblins. And we all thought that was a really cool idea, but we just couldn't figure out how to make it work mechanically, or even really it's not a question of couldn't figure out how to make it work mechanically. We couldn't figure out what the mechanical fantasy was. And so we abandoned it. We said, yep, don't try to force it. If it's not working, then that means it's not a good idea. I think, in other words, people can tell when you forced it in the final product. And we came up with the idea of a John Constantine type character that might be our version of a warlock, where I've made a lot of bargains with a lot of extraplanar entities, and I know a lot of lore, and maybe I can cast some spells. But when the chips are down, I summon some friend of mine that I made a deal with a bunch of years ago, and they helped me out. So maybe that's not. A cult investigator might be a better way of putting it. But is that a class? We don't know. But it was a cool idea. So anyway, we didn't need to figure out the answer, but we ended up with something that we were at least excited to have future meetings about. So that's probably what's going to happen with Equinox. And it might even happen with, Vazloria is going to get the Summoner and the Beastheart. That's enough. So yeah, I think anytime we go to some big world, whatever that is, then I think you should expect to get new classes. Or at least what you should expect is, this is the MCDM way. What you should expect is, we thought about it. We thought hard about it. And if we had a good idea, then we pursued it. And if we didn't, I don't like production-driven development where the producers are in charge and they're like, well, you did A, B, and C when you made this. Now you have to do A, B, and C anytime you make anything, because that's what the template, I made a template. Now we have to use it every time. It's like, no, who told you that? Right? It should be about, what are we motivated to do? What do we think is good design? We need to all be pulling in the same direction. And that means we all need to have a shared vision, and a schedule is not a shared vision. Yeah. Vitruvian Link, Elric. Elric was a big influence on that meeting, but Elric means a lot of things to a lot of people. And most people, I think, forget that Elric's big shtick until he gets Stormbringer, and then even after that, because he often loses Stormbringer, is he goes, oh, hang on a minute, I think one of my ancestors made a deal with a demon or a thing, an elemental. I don't know what the hell you call these things. Yeah, Shizhizhavak. Yeah, that guy. Let me see if I can remember what you're supposed to say. And he just does the thing, and this unbelievably big alien creature shows up and goes, what do you want? And Elric's like, hey, you owe us a favor. Like, oh yeah, I remember you guys. Right? That's a big part of Elric's shtick, and that's kind of what we were imagining for John Constantine. Anyway. Van Vola says, I feel so optimistic about the TTRPG future when I listen to these streams. I think there is real reason to be optimistic about the future of TTRPGs. I really think there is. MCDM is privately, I wouldn't say this out loud, privately committed to sharing what we know with other people to make it easier. I'm going to do a whole series of videos, one of which you should get relatively soon, about lessons that we've learned. Because I think one of the things that happens when you have success like ours in this space is people try to explain it away. Somebody does a crowdfunded RPG based on a hit anime and it does crazy numbers, or based on a hit series of fantasy novels and it does crazy numbers. It's easy to explain that away. Those have a built-in audience. MCDM has a hit and everyone's like, how do we explain this away? Oh, it's because Colville is really popular. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. But the flip side is that what that means is that frees them from having to learn any lessons. And people like knowing things a lot more than they like learning things. But I definitely feel as though a lot of the common wisdom that is being passed around, the received wisdom that you read online about the industry, about development, is wrong. It's wrong. And the only reason it looks right is because the market leader is an absent parent and has been an absent parent since, I would say, at least 2011, if not earlier. But because of the sociological phenomenon surrounding the market leader, things like Stranger Things and Critical Role, nobody noticed. Nobody really noticed. Though, like you thought, I was one of these people. I thought this is a strategy. It's not a strategy. It's the strategy you end up with when you have no power in the relationship. And that didn't used to be true. I worked at Wizards of the Coast during the third edition era. In RPG R&D, I didn't work on third edition, but I know what it's like when the market leader is investing in the product. I know what it looks like. And the last 10 years, that ain't it. There's no resemblance to it. So people learn bad lessons. They learn, I guess this is the kind of product you should make. You shouldn't make player-facing products ill rigor. You shouldn't make player-facing products because the market leader doesn't. And I'm like, that is not the right lesson to learn from that. And we have good numbers. Do you know what our best-selling product ever is in terms of numbers and anything revenue? The ill rigor. And it's a player-facing product. Right? So that's another received wisdom. Only dungeon masters spend money. I'm like, well, if you only make product, if the market leader only makes products for the director, then guess what? Right? But then everybody else. So I think people have drawn the wrong conclusions. A lot of wrong conclusions. We heard a lot of people telling us that you shouldn't run a crowdfunder in December. And they were trying to hold themselves up as experts on crowdfunding. And it's like, well, we've got a store that runs 365 days a year, and the store tells us that's our best sales time. That's when people are the most willing to spend money. And we had a smash hit crowdfunder in December. So you want to try to argue that we could have done double that number if we had done it in June? Good luck. So yeah, anyway, I think there are good lessons to be learned here. I do think that there is a better business and a better hobby available to all of us if people just focus on what succeeds and what people want and what makes good games. What makes good games and what makes good communities and what makes good products. And I don't think any of this is magic. I don't think any of it requires, it's like my go-to example. It's not complicated, not like Bessel functions. Krahav, the issue is people try to model the behavior of the market leader based on product development and customer satisfaction. And that only works, which means it doesn't work. That only works if you know that their customer are investors. And if you know that, everything they do makes perfect sense. In fact, I think that, I talked about this on stream yesterday, but yeah. Yes. Master of Jackals. Yes. More than our best selling, yes, it's crazy. Actually, maybe not more than Draw Steel. I think when I asked this question of our general manager, the implicit context was our 5e products. No, fourth edition represents investment. Fourth edition represents investment in the property, right? And I think that investment was much muted compared to 3E, but there has basically been no investment in 5th edition ever. You can go watch interviews on YouTube with the original dev team talking about what it was like working on 5e. It was the opposite, right? So the market leader has been an absent parent for the entire life cycle of the current edition. And as a result, generations of gamer, I don't know how many generations, have drawn the completely wrong conclusions. People want to get excited about shit, Grant Breeze, so you need to put stuff in front of them they're excited by. I think that's basically correct, Eldora Rising. I think they gamed an internal political scenario in a way that turned out to be, anyway, yeah. Smite Lord 100, I'm having a great day. Patronizing _ I love that. We hear that all the time and it makes me happy every time. Never going to get tired of that. Yeah, Ben Riley 616. When you look at like Shadow Dark, it's getting harder and harder for people to. You see a lot of people on YouTube in this very weird RPG gossip space who are trying to make hay off of. They're trying to ring the doom and gloom bell, but then other YouTubers like Bob the Builder they go and they look at the publicly available data and they're like, "You guys are all wrong. The opposite is true." It's a boom time. Grinth 91, I think that those things represent the end of something that started in 2011 and it just took them a long time to close the door. They were going to close the door a lot faster and they went, well, let's leave this door open a little while longer. Yeah. Treston 313, I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I think Matt messaged me with some questions about names or something, or we had some conversation about something that I'm not even sure it was directly related to his setting, but I remember he might remember. He was at when I was still working in video games. He came down and did some temp VO for us, which was really good, by the way. That guy's a way better actor than people give him credit for. And they think he's a good actor, but I'm a professional and I have a higher opinion. And we hung out for a couple hours because he didn't want to drive home in traffic, and we talked about all sorts of shit. And I think somewhere in there, I said something that he went, "Oh, that's a good idea." Mr. Comics, yeah, I mean, I think that the kinds of people who play a lot and then go online to talk about it, they tend to be doing it in Discords and Facebook groups, which means most people never hear about it. The kind of people who go online and talk about it on Blue Sky or Twitter or Reddit, they tend to be the people that don't play that much. That's always been my experience. Any fun news about the Codex? I would not be the person to. I have no idea. I don't work on or with the Codex. That's like a Geordie question. Oh, that's super cool, Shambly Shins. Good luck. I completely agree. It is cyclical, Dillagaffern. And I do think that cycle is often, the market leader has a lot to do with that cycle, but they don't have everything to do with it. Like in some cases, they're the victims of it sometimes. Yeah, Facebook groups are hugely fertile for RPG groups. Happens all the time. A lot of people don't want to make a great game. They want to put out a book that has their name on the cover, and those aren't mutually exclusive. But it's yeah. We watched with Nail. Did I tell you folks this? We watched with Nail and I for movie night last week, and we had a huge group, because not only did we have all the folks that were here because they were visiting, like Dale and James and Jordy and Willie, we also had, Matt O'Driscoll, and it was awesome. Yeah, and I told Matt O'Driscoll, if you are ever around for movie night, let me know, because that's when we're going to screen with Nail and I. And it was a lot of fun. It's a really dark fucking movie. It's a really dark film. Nairo, yeah, that is somebody we hired to go through. I have no input onto it other than the fact that I wrote and recorded the original videos, going through our old back catalog and grabbing shorts for the main channel or the second channel. It's really cool. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, With Nail and I it's a very funny movie, but it's also very dark, and it's also very, very English. In a way that not all the jokes work. And since sometimes you literally don't understand what they're saying. That was a problem. I had a hard time understanding some of their, just what they were, literally what they were saying. But then other times, some of these quotes that people in the UK love, I was like, why is that? It's not that I don't know why it's funny. It's that I don't know why it's that funny.